Companies want fans emotionally invested into comics, but emotionally invested doesn't always mean happiness. It can mean anger too. Let's talk about that. It seems really strange to have to explain that emotions are, there's many of them. I think Disney even did a movie of this, right? I mean, I don't think, I know. I saw Inside Out. I've got kids. But there's people like to focus on the love and the sadness and the hope and the happy ones. That's the emotions they like to think about. Those are normal emotions, and they tend to not like or not want to think about things like anger and rage and frustration and the negative ones. I mean, even in the name, they call it a negative emotion. Well, it is a negative emotion, but it's also just an emotion. And companies, whether you're movies or comics or games, people understood a long time ago that if you get people emotionally invested in your product, they'll buy more of it. Comics discovered this by creating spin-offs and other tie-ins that they can make more money off of. Games understands this by making in-game purchases and bundled content and a lot of these ideas designed to hook you emotionally to get you invested. A lot of the early stage MMOs became so popular because when they applied emotional investment to the game, people, even if they stopped playing the game, wouldn't want to shut it off. They wouldn't want to stop paying the subscriptions because then they'd lose all that emotion. It was something they'd collected. So they just keep paying even though they don't play the game anymore. Well, that's where we sit with comics. We've had a desperate attempt to get people more emotionally invested in the stories, but people don't really want to see the anger part of it. And I'm not excusing anger or rage in comics. I'm not excusing somebody who gets so angry at a comic that they, tear it up and they throw it on the floor and they start screaming at people and they threaten the creator with death and all the rest. There's no excuse for that. Of course not. That's somewhere between, dangerous and throwing a tantrum. But all the same, it is an expected emotion. If you're going to create something and get people to invest in it, particularly something like comics where the investment can span 30, 40, 50 years, it can span, days, weeks, months of reading. It's not like, I mean, comics has a much bigger library and volume than TV and then movies. The MCU can make a lot of money, and it does, on a 2 hour, 3 hour film. But comics, in terms of time investment, will take up hundreds of thousands of hours. When you read comics for that long, when you pay attention and wait month by month, the funny thing about comics and reading and kind of the emotions that build up is they build up kind of stealthily from where you least expect. You're reading a comic, it's a quick read, 10 minutes, you're done, and then you have to wait 30 days, and then you get another 10 minutes. So you have to wait 30 days, you get another 10 minutes. And you multiply that out over years, you get the time it takes to actually read the comic, which is not that long, and you get the waiting and anticipation and thinking about what might come next and all the rest. It adds up. And whenever you get so much energy put into something, you're going to get strong emotion. And again, comics know this. It's why in the X-Men 22, the last of the Rosenberg run, they have Scott and Jean kind of walk toward each other. They haven't seen each other in a long time, and embrace and kiss. And that's they hadn't done that since the Grant Morrison era. So it's been a long time. It's been several years since we've had these two characters in one spot together. But at the same time, they're that whole scene and that page was designed to tee off of an emotional response. You know these characters. You know that they've been lovers. They've been husband and wife, and we want to play up that love. But earlier in the issue, when they kill off Havoc in a panel, here's a character that Claremont and Peter David and Rick Remender And many other writers spent years developing. And then you kill them off in one panel, and guess what? That same emotion that is going to boil up in readers, that is meant to be like the, oh, I'm so happy that Scott and Jean are back together, is also going to boil up with the, what the hell? You killed off this character like that? It cuts both ways. And I think more people need to understand that and stop trying to label these things as bad. It's like, if I read a comic book, if I read Batman and I don't like the direction that the writer is taking Batman, and I say so, I say, I really think this is garbage. I've been reading Batman for 20 years and I hate this direction. It feels sloppy to me. It feels clumsy to me. That person is immediately labeled a toxic fan. Is that fair? The person's having an emotional reaction to the comic they read. And again, an emotional reaction the comic company desperately wants. They just want all the nice ones. They don't want the bad ones. They want to have just the people praising and just the clapping and the kudos. They don't want any back talk. They don't want any second guessing. They don't want any alternate opinion. All they want is positive. Is that realistic? Of course it's not. You can't get one without the other. If you want people to be emotionally invested into your stories and your comics, then they're going to get mad, just like they get happy. I think people forget about this. I think and in some cases, it's the fact that it's not the same writer, decade after decade. It changes over time. A new writer comes on, they're on the issue for like six, title for 6 issues. And, fans are all over him saying, this is terrible. What have you done? I hate it. And this writer's like, what did I do to deserve this? It's like, well, you didn't do anything to deserve it directed at you, but you are working on somebody else's, well, but you are working in somebody else's garden. And that's comics, particularly the big two, particularly when you have these legacy characters that have, gone and gone and gone. They're not your characters. They're not any one creator's living. There's nobody in DC or Marvel living that can lay claim to the entire IP ownership of a Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. There's some people who've created it who are still alive, early stage creators. But since that time, dozens, if not hundreds, of different creators, different writers have shaped this hero. It belongs to everybody in a certain extent. And so if a reader says, I don't like something, I don't like where this is going, I don't like what you've done, again, it's not personal. And to belabor the point, I don't agree with fans who go nuts and make threats and just endlessly screech on and on and on about something. There's nothing good about that. At the same time, we have to expect that these emotions are going to exist. If you want nothing but positive emotions, nothing but positive comments, then you shouldn't be working in comics. You shouldn't be working in any field where your work is going out to the public space. And you absolutely should only be working on your content, things you make, creator owned. Creator owned comics are absolutely the best place to go to shelter yourself from criticism. You may still get it, but they're your characters. You can do what you want with them. If you tell a story and then mid-story you decide to take a left turn and do something completely different with it, that's your choice. None of your readers can get in there and say, hey, this person ruined the comic. It's your comic. Now, readers still may not like it. They may complain. And if you want to avoid that, then you should make comics and never produce them. Keep them in your house. Maybe hand them out only to trusted friends who you know are going to give you nothing but positive praise. But if you're going to go out and you're going to put a comic or a magazine or a book or a movie or a game or a TV show or anything else out into the world, be prepared to have to, get the good and the bad. And the bad can suck. Nobody likes being told what they do is bad. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just not good. And nothing is gained from lying to the person. I I guess I'll finish it up this way. I said earlier, there's a lot of different emotions in the spectrum. There's happiness, there's passion, there's love, there's disgust. I'll just now name off the Inside Out characters. There's anger, there's sadness, there's porny. No, wait, that wasn't Inside Out. That was a different movie. Anyway, there's all these different emotions that play out. And if you're going to go in and you're going to draw upon emotions and you're going to really try and pull heartstrings of people and you're really going to get them invested in what you do, then you can't really control the emotions you're going to get. You're making an emotional appeal. And maybe you try and guide it. I mean, you can make an appeal to nostalgia or make an appeal to sadness, or you can make an appeal to happiness or depression. There's lots of ways you can try and target certain emotions. But if you're going at the emotions, you have to be prepared for people to, maybe get emotionally invested in a way you didn't think. And if you want a loyal fan base that's going to follow you year after year to comics, you're going to have to come to the understanding that that fan base may one day not like the direction you take the thing that they've invested into. You know what I'm saying? They may not like your direction. And you can be pissed about that. You can be mad about that. You can call them toxic fans. You can do any number of things. But it really doesn't change the fact at the end of the day, people are going to have their own opinion. They're going to do what they want. You can choose to listen to that, or you could ignore it. That's your choice. As a creator, it's your choice. As long as you own your own work. If you're working for somebody else, then yeah, it's your choice, but it's also the person who actually owns the property at a given time's choice. I don't know. Anger's a funny thing. It's of course nobody likes it, nobody wants it, but it's a natural emotion. It can definitely be used to do terrible things, bad things. But trying to just not have it, that's silly. Anyway, what do you think? What? Leave me a comment below. What do you think? What emotions am I missing here? There's fear. You can get fear. There's like hungry. It's not really an emotion, but it's kind of funny to think about. Why do you think that comics, and in particular comic creators, publishers, they want to draw upon your emotions, they want to have that connection, and yet they don't want to have it in any way they can't control? Are, why do they think that? How did these people get into adult being that way? It's very odd. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Tell a friend if you'd like. That would be wonderful. And thanks for listening.